What's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to Philly with John Marks on PHLY. If you're listening or watching live on YouTube, what's up? Good morning, Roku TV. Good morning to you. If you're listening on podcast after the show, what's up, everybody? You can listen or watch whenever. Doesn't have to be live. Just search us on YouTube, search us on Roku, and find the Philly with John Marks podcast on your favorite podcast, wherever you get your favorite podcast. It'll be posted every day, right a little bit after 9 o'clock after the show's over. Tyler Zulli will post that for us. The show is always brought to you by Parks Casino, Bet Parks. Get the Bet Parks app right now. I was actually on it this morning, and I was saying, like, all right, well, what is this Eagles line doing? Because as much as we're going to talk about the Phillies coming up in a second, I'm curious to see where things are going. And it is still a 2.5-point spread for the Eagles. The Eagles are 2.5-point favorites. Shout out to Bet Parks for that. All right. It feels so good. Phillies clinched last night. I know Tyler Zulli and the PHLY Phillies crew were up late, very excited about the win. The guys were acting crazy in the locker room afterwards. I always enjoy watching my team celebrate, not other teams. I'll never watch that. But I enjoy watching the Phillies celebrate. And let's not get any of this lost, as clearly the goal is the World Series. When you lose in the World Series and you fall apart in the NLCS, that like anything but going back to the World Series this year, that's obviously the focus. But it's still okay to enjoy the moment and to live in the moment. And this is only the third time in the franchise's 142 years. Philadelphia Phillies have been around for 142 years, and most of them haven't been good. A lot of them haven't been good. This is the third time that they've been in the playoffs 3 straight times. First division title since 2011. And this is a really, really good baseball team. This year was unlike the other two where they didn't have the slow start, where they pretty much owned the division from the beginning, middle of May on. They hadn't looked back. And this is a really, really, really good team. And you just hope now that they're able to put it together and figure it out, and they hit their stride in October. It's so difficult in baseball, I think really unlike any other sport, to know exactly how the team is going to be playing a month from now or 2 weeks from now or 3 weeks from now. We see routinely the best teams in baseball during the regular season, during 162 games. That's a large sample size. You get to the postseason, a bad matchup in a series, you just don't play well. Right? And then it's over. So enjoy it. We're going to enjoy this right now, and we're going to enjoy the rest of the regular season as we hope they're able to clinch, get that first round bye, get home field throughout the entirety of the playoffs. But the guys enjoyed it last night. I enjoyed watching it. Tyler, Jamie, Renee last night, they enjoyed it. Can we take a peek inside of the clubhouse right now, Tyler Zulli? As here's Rob Thompson addressing the team after they clinched their first division title in well over a decade. Here it is.
You want to get that ball. It's very important to us. So I want you guys to party tonight, but be ready to come here to play tomorrow. Now, last thing, I brought John in here. John, come on over. Remember in spring training, the man said he wants to. Where you're from? What you sign for?
So John Middleton in spring training, and I've spoken to players about it, what his message to the team was, I want that World Series trophy back. And I want that bleeping World Series trophy back. And that's what he said right there, if you couldn't hear it, because they had to bleep it out, because that was from the official Phillies Twitter account, I believe. He said, I want that bleeping trophy back. Yep. And then the guys, oh. So it was it's pretty awesome, Tyler, to see an organization that for a lot of my life was much maligned, and for good reason. They did a lot of losing and were talked about as being cheap, talked about it not caring, talked about as kind of being a second-class organization to where they're anything but a second-class organization. This is the one franchise, and this isn't taken away from Jeffrey Lurie, because Jeffrey Lurie has been here a long time and done a great job with the Eagles. But this is a local ownership group. These are owners that have been Phillies fans for generations, and to see them get back to this kind of success. And John Middleton, I'll be honest with you, he went into luxury tax spending. A lot of owners don't do that. A lot of owners don't have to do that. He was always consistent and said, when this team's ready to win a World Series, I'll spend. This dude just keeps spending and spending and spending and spending, and it's working out. People are filling his stadium. It was a sellout last night, and he has a team that is going to be a favorite to win a World Series this year. So I feel good for the ownership. I feel good for the players. It's a very likable team. From Bryce, who, man, he's coming to town from being a free agent, and I think a lot of people thought of him maybe differently or wasn't sure of the reputation of a guy you were getting. He is amazing. He's an amazing superstar in this town. He's legit. Bryce Harper's as legit as any player that's ever been traded for, that's ever signed in the city, that's ever played in this city. He really is. Like, he has taken being a Philadelphia Philly personally, and he said, like, this is my franchise, and he's taken it all on his shoulders. Kyle Schwarber, another home run last night, an amazing signing. And even Nick Castellanos, who a lot of people have crapped on over his career, he's been pretty productive when he's not having these totally cold, dry moments when he's clueless up at the plate. Castellanos is actually a pretty good contributor to the Phillies. Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler. Nola looked good again last night. I am ready for this team. I'm ready for the postseason to start, Tyler. But I know you went postgame last night. You were on till late, enjoying the scene, enjoying everything. But this one feels good. It feels good. They clinched, and it feels so good, Tyler.
Yeah, I think you brought up the ownership group, and I think that's a really good place to start, because you're right. This is an ownership group that cares about this franchise. We've talked about disenfranchised ownership groups before, and I hate to point the finger, but there's one in this city. We know who it is. And listen, business is business. Make your money, and I'm not going to fault Harris and that group for making their money. But that is what it is to them. It's a business. John Middleton, this is personal. And he said it. He wants his bleeping trophy back, right? And I think about the previous ownership groups, and the one acquisition that I think you can almost pinpoint that kickstarted 20 years of willingness to go out and make acquisitions when your team is good, right? Because you take that 7-8 year sample size where this was a dreadful organization.
Right.
You throw that out the window because, like Middleton said, they're not going to spend money when they're not ready to. But if you take the block of the 5 years they won the division and the last 4 years where they started to spend, big time bucks, you go back to Jim Thome being signed. It was the corner turn for this organization to say, we're willing to spend money and free agents are willing to come here. And somebody said it in the group chat, like in the chat here, there's a return on investment when you invest in your organization. Ticket sales, jersey, merchandise, everything you can possibly think of, you're making your money back on. So to go back to like the very beginning of this organization kind of turning a corner, I think about the Jim Thome signing, which in part led to, the additions that they were willing to make when they got good, and bringing in a Raul Ibanez, a Roy Halladay, a Roy Oswalt, a Cliff Lee. And then it parlays, two very separate teams. But then you think about an organization that's willing to spend money, and you bring in JT Realmuto, Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos, Kyle Schwarber, Zach Wheeler. That, to me, like, whether you win championships or not, it's very hard to do. But to have two different blocks of sustained success because of your willingness to compete, that means something to your fan base.
No, I agree. It's a great point. David Montgomery took over in, I believe it was the summer of '97. They forced Bill Giles out, and David Montgomery more or less started running the franchise from the ownership level. And it took a little bit of time. They were so damn close under Larry Boa. Go back and look at those teams. They have 86, 87, I think even 88 win teams. But with the one wild card, depending on what year you're in, they just kept falling short. Charlie Manuel comes in. Ed Wade's gone. When they made the move to Pat Gillick, similar to Dave Dombrowski right now, a veteran Hall of Fame general manager comes in and he knows exactly what to do with the roster, and Pat Gillick did the same thing. And those guys make mistakes. Pat Gillick made mistakes with Adam Eaton and Jeff Jenkins. Dave Dombrowski's made mistakes here with Taijuan Walker, and some people will say Castellanos, although he's been very productive in stretches. So they take big swings, and they get hits, and they're not afraid to spend money. You had just mentioned it, and it's so true to look back at it. They were in play for every major trade at the trade deadline, for every major move in the offseason. They went out and got Roy Halladay, a future Hall of Famer and the best pitcher in baseball. They traded for him. They traded Cliff Lee, which everybody hated. They also traded for Cliff Lee. And then they won, they won the World Series before all that happened. And like you said, it's hard to win World Series. The year against the Giants won the World Series. That was a very good team. The Cardinals year, that was a very good team, right? And I feel like that Ruben Amaro takes a lot of crap in this town, and ultimately it fell apart. Man, he was going for it. He put
a product on the field that was ready to win.
Man, was anybody complaining when you had the aces and you had every trade that he made and every star that he had? The problem was they probably went a little bit too far in trying to milk out the Howard and the Utley and the Rollins when those guys were really done. But what do you want them to do? Right? Like, I wouldn't have known how to manage a team like that. They were homegrown players. It's not as easy to walk away from, like, Kyle Schwarber. When Kyle Schwarber is whenever he's going to be like deteriorating as a player and going backwards, it'll be easier to not re-sign him than it would have been Ryan Howard or Jimmy Rollins or Chase Utley, guys that were drafted and developed by the organization that won championships. But the bottom line is this is a great ownership group, and they deserve as much credit as anybody else, because really that, like, they've put this together and they've done it. Doesn't it always feel different with the Phillies? Like that we're one of them. And again, I'm not talking about the Eagles, and everything is going to get pointed to the 76ers, which, by the way, I think a lot of it is unfair, but it is what it is. Josh Harris is just thought to be kind of a mercenary that's coming in. He's made a ton of money off buying the Sixers. He's going to get a new downtown arena. He really loves the Commanders, which is probably true. It was his childhood team. But with the Phillies, it feels like family, because all of the Phillies ownership and everybody in the organization have been with them for so long. So this one feels good, Tyler Zulli. It definitely does.
And it should. And we talked about it last night. I think you need to be able to separate this was bound to happen, right? They've held a division lead since May. We kind of expected them to win the division the way that they have played for most of the year. We know that July was kind of ugly, but for most of the year, they've been the best team in the division. So this was kind of expected, but I think you have to separate your expectations of this happening with, you can still enjoy this. It took 13 years for this to happen. Winning divisions is hard. I think we are a little bit almost over dramatic with winning a division because of the 5 in a row. I talked last night about how the Braves won, I think, 14 division titles in a row?
One World Series.
One World Series out of that whole stretch. One World Series. That shows you how difficult it is to win a title, let alone to win, 14 division titles in a row. Enjoy this. There's more to come, and your expectations should be way more than the division, right? It should be a bye next. It should be getting to the CS. I hope it's to be getting to the World Series. But I think you can in steps enjoy winning the division today, tomorrow, and then you start to set your sights on something bigger.
Yeah. Well, wait, we have more with this. Brandon Lee Gowton, Bleeding Green Nation, is going to be coming up here. He's joining us in studio about 10 minutes. We'll do some Eagles, including now that it's the day after, and a lot of times this is where you lose some of your day after emotion. Are we being fair with Nick Sirianni? Dude's getting a ton of criticism. This team is 2-1. They did just have a really good road win. We'll discuss with BLG coming up here in about 10 minutes. But we have to go to headlines here. And do we have a headline sponsor? Are we selling the show here, Tyler Zulli?
Listen, that's what they tell us. And I'm just going to go by what they tell us. So until I'm told otherwise and to stop doing that, I'm going to tell you that our headlines are brought to you by Glatt Hair Restoration. Bald is now optional if you want to improve how you look and how you feel about yourself. Glatt Hair has the right treatment for you. Regain your confidence and visit GlattHairMCTR.com or call 610-980-4000 to get started.
Yeah, no.
We're sponsored now.
This is not a mistake. I was having conversations yesterday. I just didn't know it was starting this morning. But yes, it is.
I showed up this morning and found out, so we know it together.
There you go. See that? I'm gonna pitch Greg Olson to go to Glatt Hair Restoration. He looked like Chris Farley from the van down by the river. His hair was such
listen, I get it. You see it, right? You see it. It's starting to go. I understand. You have to just kind of make some changes.
Let me send a text to my people over at Glatt Hair Restoration for you.
But the hairpiece he had on was dreadfully bad. Dreadfully bad. Like, listen, I get it. I know what it's like to start, having to change your hairstyle, right? You got to put I started having to put the hard part in to break it up a little bit.
You absolutely start changing your hairstyle when you lose your hair. Absolutely.
But that one was bad. That was really, really bad. I think that it's pretty obvious that what we're going to get into tonight is more Phillies talk. We talked a lot about it in your opening segment. Phillies clinch a division title for the first time in 13 years last night with a 6-2 win over the Chicago Cubs. Aaron Nola was good once again. Probably would not have come out for the 7th if this were a playoff game.
Right.
But they let him roll because it was 6-0 and he was pitching well. Ends up going 6+. Gives up a couple of earned runs. Matt Strom comes in, does a tremendous job of holding things down. And the Phillies bullpen ends up holding on to a 6-2 lead. Got a little bit dicey in the 9th with Carlos Estevez on the mound. But the Phillies win this one 6-2. And courtesy of our friends NBC Sports Philadelphia, this is how it sounded when the Phillies won the division for the first time since 2011.
The 2-2, swing and a fly ball, right center field. Castellanos going back on the edge of the track, makes the catch. The ball game is over. For the first time in 13 years, the Phillies will celebrate as National League East champions. It's their 12th divisional crown, and they'll mob each other on the mounds.
There you go. Tom McCarthy, NBC Sports Philadelphia. Can we have a little Stubby? Garrett Stubbs. Do you have that video? Because I'm like everybody else, and I'm flipping back and forth with the football games. Two really entertaining games last night. That Washington Commanders. We'll mention this with BLG coming up here. Washington Commanders are no joke. Jim Daniels is no joke, man. This dude's good. So impressive win last night. Cincinnati falls to 0-3. But do we have Stubby?
Gonna get to Stubbs in just a second.
Right.
I will. There was one of those videos that fell through the cracks. I apologize.
No, it's not that big of a deal. So everybody's in the clubhouse and they're spraying champagne. Nobody has clothes on. Did you notice that? This is a meathead locker room. Let me take my shirt off.
Oh, Jamie's talked about this all year. Like they don't have a whole lot of thought between them. Did you ever see look at if you have a dog, you ever look at your dog and think like what's going on in your head?
Right.
And I've come to the
Phillies players.
I've come to the conclusion that my dog either has nothing going on in her head or she's got like infinite life wisdom. That's just,
dogs do not have infinite life.
So there's nothing going on in her head,
not
right?
Cats.
I think about this Phillies team, and they are just a bunch of dudes who love to play baseball. And I don't know. I don't know how much thought process goes into some of the things they do, but they do what they do, right? And
they win, do what they do,
and they win baseball games.
And that's what they do, correct? And Stubby, so Stubbs is yelling as he's celebrating. Bet the over on Stubbs tomorrow for a home run or something like that.
Oh, he's playing tomorrow or today.
Oh, he's
going
playing
to play
for sure. He's playing for sure. So I wonder what I'll have to check the BetParks app to see what the number is.
Tanner Banks is going to get the start today for the Phillies. I assume that either Taijuan Walker or Colby Allard will be like the bulk guy. This new trend of that's what they're called now, the bulk guy. Tanner Banks is going to get the start, however, though. And we'll see what happens because the Phillies do still have things to play for. Obviously, we talked about the bye that is still in effect. The magic number to clinch the 2 seed at least is down to 2. The Phillies have a 3.5-game lead on the Brewers, who were idle yesterday. The Brewers begin a series tonight with the Pittsburgh Pirates. So probably not going to get a ton of help there. The Pirates have become pretty helpless, which is unfortunate because they looked like a team that was starting to get ready to compete.
They were fun before the All-Star break, before the trade deadline. Yeah.
But the Pirates kind of look a little bit helpless at this point. They actually now have the 4th worst record in the National League. But the magic number does stand at 2 to clinch the 2 seed. So theoretically, the Phillies could clinch the 2 seed tonight. John, if I were a betting man, which I try to limit my betting at this point, especially on baseball, I would go to BetParks and I would bet on the I would bet the Chicago Cubs on the money line tonight. One of those games.
I would tend to agree based on Rob Thompson telling him, he's like, go out and party tonight. And he said, but be ready to play tomorrow.
Yeah, okay? I would imagine that the Phillies are – I firmly believe the Phillies are going to get the 2 seed. It's just a matter of time. Tonight is probably not the night that it happens.
Yeah, I don't disagree. All right, Brandon Lee Gowton's coming up here in a second. I texted Andrew Frazier out there to see if he can go down and grab him, Tyler, because BLG is in the house. He'll be in the house.
And by the way, we get a comment here. Philly Sports Pride says it is more like 4 games, so because you get like that imaginary half game because they own the tiebreaker, right? So they're
sure.
3.5 is the number, but it's really more like 4 because Milwaukee would have to not only tie them but beat them. So
tiebreakers are important, and you're seeing this now. So it's awesome. All right, well, thank you. BLG coming up here in just 1 second. By the way, make sure you subscribe to the Daily PHLY. Rich Hoffman Jr. every morning has amazing stuff out there. It's like your daily Philadelphia sports page, embedded tweets, sound, stuff that's happening on the network, stuff that's happening everywhere else. So if you were looking to see like, hey, what happened after the Phillies game last night, of course you want to listen to us and watch us. But Rich does such a great job. So just get to the website and subscribe, and that'll get sent right to your inbox every morning, which is pretty cool. All right, well, we were talking about glatt hair restoration before, and yeah, I'd said to Tyler, I'm like, yeah, you could probably go over for a consultation, one-on-one consultation, but like bald is optional. So I always say this whenever I talked about glatt hair restoration. It's like you can shave your head and you look good. Now I can't shave my head because I look scary. I don't look good. But if you want to get your hair back, and this is legit, you can contact Glatt Hair Restoration, now part of Morgenstern Center, under the direction of renowned plastic surgeon Dr. Ken Morgenstern. But you're just getting the best results in the business. And actually, I was looking for the before and after picture that I took to send to Tyler for our people that are watching on video. I mean, you can see what my hair looks like right here. But what did it look like before? And I wasn't Phil Martelli. Sorry, Phil. I wasn't Phil Martelli. I wasn't completely bald, but I'm kind of like where Tyler was, where I looked at my last license picture and I'm like, wow, my hairline's really receded. That's normal. Right? Like that's normal for guys unless you're blessed with an amazing hairline. That's normal, but it doesn't have to be normal anymore because you can legitimately get your hair back, and there's nobody better in the business than Glatt Hair. Hair restoration is one thing, but other maintenance things that you can get done. Now there's vitamin supplements that can really help the thinning and the hair loss, right? Topical oral medications, PRP, stem cell restoration. Science has emerged so much in the last 10 years regarding hair loss and things like that. And that's the great thing about Glatt Hair Restoration. They're on top of all of it. That's why they're the #1 hair restorers in the nation. Each patient receives a complimentary one-on-one consultation to pinpoint the best course of treatment. They're going to give you like really what you should do. They're not just going to try to sell you on something. They're there to work with you to get your hair back. Change your hair, change your life. Give them a call today. You can speak with their hair team. 610-980-4000. 610-980-4000. The website is glatthairmctr.com. Glatthairmctr.com. I've mentioned this many times to our viewers and our listeners. Reach out to me. Reach out to me. If you have any questions you want to ask me, DM me at John Marks Media, JONMARKS Media, at John Marks Media, or just email me. You can find everything on my socials. So Glatt Hair, check them out. Glatt Hair. All right, let's talk about Ace. I need an Ace. Sometimes you need an Ace. Not an Ace of Spades, but Ace Hardware. Ace Hardware. Listen, I'm there frequently because something on the weekend, I need more bug spray. I need this. I need that. I need some mulch. But here's what I can't do. I can't fix anything. I can't do anything. I'm completely helpless. Well, if you have an air conditioning issue, if you have any problems, residential maintenance, installation, home repair services, plumbing, heating, cooling, and electrical, AceHardwareHomeservices.com. AceHardwareHomeservices.com. Anything that you need, any type of installation, repair, emergency, something happens on the weekend, emergency services are available for you when you need it. All right, they're local, our team, like Ace. They're your neighborhood hardware store, right? Well, that's why they're there. Ace Hardware Home Services, the power of the Ace brand, strives to be the best, most trusted provider of home preservation services. So if you need something, you're going to Ace Hardware. If you need something fixed, residential maintenance, installation, home repair, AceHardwareHomeservices.com to get started on your project today. Check them out. All right, BLG's gonna slide in here in a second. We need some type of a doorbell or something, Tyler, because if we're having somebody that's in studio and we're trying to get people that are preparing for the next show to go down and maybe grab Brandon.
Sure.
And they don't necessarily see their phones. If BLG's there, he can come in. I think he's standing at the door.
I think he's here.
So we have to get lucky. Anthony was the one that had to go down and let him in, and we appreciate that. But BLG joins us right here. So I had this question. I'm going to start with this with Brandon. The Eagles are 2-1. BLG, how are you? Bleeding Green Nation, what's up, buddy?
Doing great. How's it going, Johnny Marks?
Good. I'm throwing you right into it.
Yeah, I'm ready.
I understand it, and I share in some of it. But, man, for a 2-1 team that had a really impressive road win, Nick Sirianni, you guys, the Bengals are 0-3. I mean, you have real Super Bowl contenders. The Cowboys are 1-2. The Ravens were close to being 0-3. They're 1-2. You have these teams that were looked at as a Super Bowl contender struggling to start the season. The Eagles had a pretty impressive win on Sunday.
The context of the win is impressive. I mean, to be coming off a short week, going up against the hottest team in the NFL. Saints were unstoppable. They averaging like 45.5 points in the first two games, 1 billion yards. For the Eagles to shut them down like they did, incredible. When it looked like in week 2 they couldn't stop the run, they couldn't rush the passer. That's why I couldn't possibly predict the Eagles to win that game. So yeah, incredibly impressive, I would say. And with the injuries too, you lose Devontae Smith.
Holy crap!
You didn't have A.J. Brown. You lose Lane. How often have we seen the Eagles lose Lane Johnson and then just basically be hopeless?
Yep.
You lose
Fred
Mekhi
Johnson
Becton.
Yep.
Yeah. So to have that adversity, that win, and I know it's like, oh, they won ugly again. They only won by 3 points. They outgained the Saints by like 269 yards.
Yeah, they really dominated them. I don't think we talked enough about that. They dominated them. They just, unfortunately, offensively, we saw what they did there. Yeah, like just how we wrote it up. The defense would dominate. The Eagles defense would dominate the Saints. I came out of the game, and we'll talk about the Sirianni decision-making for sure. I came out of the game saying, you know what? I feel really good about this team because I just saw a defense. I didn't know if they could be good this year. And you saw them be really good on Sunday. So now you look at it and you say, you know what? Maybe this can be a difference-making defense. I
think the biggest positive probably all around from Sunday's game was the play of Jaylen Carter.
For sure.
I mean, coming into this season, we had an article from one of our film guys on Bleeding Green Nation, shout out to Johnny Page, who is not like a hyperbolic guy at all. He's like incredibly measured, and he's watching the film from Jaylen Carter last year saying like, I think this guy could be defensive player of the year. Like, I don't think that was like just a homer take or a hyperbolic take. And it was disappointing that we didn't see anything like that in the first 2 weeks. Not even close, like playing bad. Jaylen Carter himself said he was playing like trash. And for him to take over like he did against the Saints, that reminded me of like vintage Fletcher Cox, when Cox would just take over a game and there's nothing the other team could do about it. They could send extra attention his way. It didn't matter. For Jaylen Carter to dominate like that, that raises the ceiling of this team, the defense specifically, but the team as a whole.
All right, so somewhat concerning that he wasn't doing it in the first 2 games. The question is why, and one of the big things and one of the reasons he slid to number 9 was his practice habits were questioned, his coachability was questioned. You had the off-the-field stuff with that car accident. I think there was, that was obviously a big part of it, but there was also the other worries with him. You saw after the game where him and Tyrann Mathieu, where he's like kind of losing it on the sideline. I heard Chris Long say this on his podcast. One of the guys he was with was talking about Carter and kind of criticizing him for the way he was behaving. And Chris Long's like, whoa, hold on a second. He's like, that guy right there, and I'm paraphrasing, he can act like that.
Yeah.
Because you have Brandon Graham. He said himself, he's like, that's why I'm on the team. So I can pull him back and say, listen, big dog, like, I got it. We can't get suspended here. But when he plays with that kind of fury, and that's what you saw during the game, look out. You need more of that Jaylen Carter. You don't need less. You need a guy that needs to have Big Dom hold him back on the sideline.
He earned the right to do that at the end of the game. Like, he very much, like, if he's playing terribly, he's doing that, then that's obviously a clown kind of move there. But for Jaylen Carter to be that dominant, I think that's fine. And obviously he's a young guy too, so maybe handle it a little bit differently in the future. But honestly, I don't care if he's going to go out and play that well. He can do that all he wants.
All right, let's dip back in here with Nick Sirianni and the criticism. All right. We're focusing on the play before the half, which was, in my opinion, incredibly stupid. The other fourth down plays that he's went for this year, I think you can argue that the passing on third down instead of running. Like, I think there's a good conversation with that. Although I may disagree in some of those instances. I didn't think he made a horse's ass decision on those other plays. With that being said, there's still some type of a feel that he's a boob, and I legitimately wonder if these guys aren't looking at him and being like, man, like, is this really our head coach? Is this really the guy that is leading us? Because he's supposed to be the CEO. He's not running the defense. He's not running the offense. The decision-making has been questionable. Do you also see the negativity? Because it's loud. They're 2-1, and it's loud right now towards Nick Sirianni.
Yeah, I don't know that I've seen evidence of it, but I've seen evidence of a poorly coached team at times. I mean, they have that 12 men in the huddle penalty on 3rd and 2, I think in the third quarter or fourth, whatever it was. And then that sets up a third down that doesn't get converted. Eagles punt, gets blocked. Like, that was a huge penalty. And that's just one example. I think they're the 6th most penalized team in the league this season so far. A lot of those are like pre-snap penalties, the stuff that isn't just, like pass interference, something that happens during the play, but the things you can kind of, in theory, iron out with good coaching and being a crisp operation. So I'm seeing evidence of a poorly coached team. I'm seeing evidence of a coach where this is the big issue that I had bringing Nick Sirianni back. Where does he give this team an edge? How does he give this team an edge? And those decisions, I think we kind of, we nitpick him. Of course, we do.
That's what we do.
But he needs to ace those decisions when this is like his main thing. When you've taken everything else off of his plate and he's not getting those right, what is he bringing to the table?
To defend Sirianni, they've had issues. Weren't they at a historic rate for penalties a couple years ago, and they totally cleaned that up.
I think,
in his first season. The season it looked like he wasn't going to make it through the season.
Yeah.
And then he had the flower speech, and you had the Raider stuff. And after that game, and they turned the season around. I say the flower speech because can we play do you have the Teddy Bruschi cut from Get Up? So I said this to you earlier, and I said, do they think he's a boob? I think they genuinely like Nick Sirianni. At least I think most of the guys do. And when he gave the flower speech after or right around the Raiders game, it was like, hey, we're watering, we're fertilizing. It's not like we're not seeing the results right now, but we're going to see the results. Just stay the course. Mm-hmm. That was a new coach. The players rallied around him getting criticized for that speech and made fun of for that speech. I remember talking to Brandon Graham during our show, and he said that, like, yeah, like we didn't think it was fair the way that the media and the fans were treating him. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering, fast forward to present day, if these players aren't tired of the message and tired of the messenger. Here's Teddy Bruschi on Get Up, and he brought up something very interesting that I was actually thinking and talking about yesterday.
I mean, I think what he said about everything's on me, it's all, that's good for high school football, really, when you're protecting kids. But as a professional, sometimes it's on me. And I know it's on me, and I don't need you protecting me. So treat me like a man. There's a little bit of that there. He seems awkward a lot of times when I watch him and I hear him. And to be in a meeting room, I can imagine on Wednesday, the core four, okay, let's go back. The core four of this team, all right, it was Fletcher,
LC. That
group, yeah. Graham, those guys, all right, they're starting to get old and thin out, and leadership eventually transitions, okay? Transitions to where certain players have to pick it up. And if they don't pick up that leadership and you're continually watching an awkward head coach continually speak in front of you, you lose guys, okay? Well, so that's why I think is Jaylen Hurts picking up his leadership? He might be right.
And last year, Jaylen Hurts obviously wasn't picking up the leadership when it came to Nick Sirianni. The beginning of what he said in that cut, I totally disagree with. Coaches, Andy Reid's been doing it for 25 years, putting it on them. Like, when you keep losing, no one wants to hear it's on you. We never didn't want to hear with Andy. It's a good thing that Nick's putting it on himself. So I don't think that's a negative. But what he said after that is what I wanted to hear in the clip. There's a certain awkwardness to him when he's addressing the team on Friday night. Are these guys rolling their eyes at him as opposed to 2 years ago? They're saying, like, all right, like, let me hear what this guy has to say. I don't know, but I suspect that maybe that's part of it.
Yeah, I don't know, because I think, for all of his faults, and that clearly I've been criticizing Nick Sirianni here, I think he's a likable person. Like, I don't think anyone's like, oh, I hate Nick Sirianni, the way that people clearly, by contrast, hated like Chip Kelly, Right. So I don't think it's something like that. And the players, I think so far, the one loss was by 1 point in a game they blew. It hasn't been like the effort isn't there at all. Like, I don't think there's signs of that much. So I don't think there's any kind of revolt here or anything like that.
Do you think they believe that he's a smart football coach?
I don't think Jaylen Hurts does, based on some of the reporting we heard. So that's kind of a big one.
I guess that's my point. Is I do think they like Nick because Nick's a good dude.
Yeah,
he's a good dude. But I think you also can, with some of the antics, we've seen Jaylen do the eye roll or whatever on the field, like coming off the field before. He also was screaming and yelling at them on the play where it looked like Judon jumped off sides and got in the neutral zone. And I don't think that anybody on the Eagles offensive line should have moved.
Yeah.
But they panned to the sideline, and he's screaming and yelling like he's a high school coach. Man, like you can't do that to these pros. There's no other coach in the NFL that's reacting like that to his team for the most part. I just worry that there's some fatigue with Sirianni a little bit. Let me ask you this, because we talk about decision-making with Nick Sirianni. I feel like for the most part during his career, he's been very good with clock management. You don't run out of timeouts at the half like you often saw with Andy Reid and things like that. Like for the most part, the game's been managed relatively well. And I always believed that part of that was he's getting good direction from upstairs. I mean, like NFL teams they have somebody that's working upstairs that knows the analytics, knows the down and distance, knows what you should be doing there, and can give feedback to the head coach. I'm wondering because they did it with Doug. It wasn't Doug's idea to start going for it on fourth down every time. This was an organizational thing, right? Mm-hmm. Is Nick Sirianni truly making the decisions on the field on these fourth downs, or is he being fed what to do from somebody upstairs? And has that changed? Has the person upstairs that's relaying information to Nick Sirianni, has that person changed? Isn't
that funny? We talk about like the person upstairs a lot, and like we don't know who that is necessarily.
Yeah, who is it?
Who is it? We knew in the past with Doug, it was I think Ryan Pagnetti, brother of Eagles offensive line assistant coach TJ Pagnetti, who's now down at the Jags as well. And yikes.
Doug's in trouble, bro.
But yeah, I don't think Nick is being told what to do from the standpoint of he's going against what the analytics say to do, at least in the case late in that Falcons game, and then not taking the field. The analytics were not in favor of going for it late in the second half there, or second quarter against the Saints. They said kick the field goal there. I think common sense also very much said kick the field goal.
So that's why I ask, has something changed between last year and this year? Because he seems erratic with these decisions, and that's not something you've seen before.
I disagree. I think that was a common theme last year, was that there wasn't enough aggressiveness. I think back to that Cardinals game, that one series where like I think they settled for the field goal or whatever, and then the Cardinals got the ball back. And the Super Bowl is the one that always kills me because it's 4th and 3.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
It's not even just the analytics; it's the context of the game, which Sirianni talks about needing to consider in that game. Obviously, their defense had just allowed 2 75-yard touchdown drives. Jaylen Hurts is playing awesome. The punter just came off IR, and you're like trusting the defense that's bad and the punter who might not be healthy instead of your MVP quarterback in that game. So we've seen that before. And then here's what also bothered me after that. Okay, it's a Super Bowl. He's in his second season. Make a mistake, maybe. It's a big mistake, but make a mistake after the game. He doubles down on it, just like he did after the Falcons game in a different way, and said 32 of 32 head coaches go for it there. That defeats the point of analytics. You're trying to be the one coach that gives your team an edge.
Right.
And insane in a city, too, where we saw Doug Peterson, like you said, win the Super Bowl by being aggressive and going all out, that Sirianni wouldn't also lean into that. So I would say that he hasn't been aggressive enough. And also, last thing on this, it's just like, what's the identity? Like, it's not like, hey, we're just going to be like the Lions, aggressive, no matter what, we're going to go all out, and that's what we're going to live and die by. I think with Sirianni, and obviously different circumstances call for different things, but his decision-making process kind of feels like haphazard at times and lacking conviction to me.
He doesn't come off as being a smart head football coach with a lot of these decisions. He just, the thing at the end of the half, and it's the biggest thing I hate about analytics, even if it would have shown, like, no, you should go for it here, like, you have to take into account everything else with the game. You would have one more play. Honestly, dude, I think he thought he could get a touchdown on that run. I don't think he was going for the first down and for one more shot in the end zone. They got a touchdown with Swift in a similar situation against the Commanders with the fake tush push. Mm-hmm. I sincerely think he thought there was a good chance they would get a touchdown off that with Barkley.
I think that's part of it, but it's just like, I think if you're going to be aggressive, though, again, if that's what you're really going to do and go all out, I just think you have to pass the ball then. Like, I would have respected it more if they passed it there in that 4th and 1, thinking that, okay, the Saints will never see this coming. We're totally going to be aggressive and take them off guard. I think that what they did there with the run is a little bit like,
it was really a 4th and 2. That wasn't a one. I mean, that was a really long one.
That's a half measure to me because like it's a run. There's a good chance he could get tackled, before the end zone there. So I don't like that. If you're going to be aggressive, go all out. And if you're going to play it safe a little bit, like maybe use your unstoppable play that went 4 for 4 last week and has been great for you the past couple of years here. So, yeah, I just didn't think that made sense.
They didn't sell the tush push on that either. It didn't. No. When they lined up, it's like, they're not going for a tush push here. I thought they were going to try to draw them offside. I didn't know what they were going to do.
Well, Barkley, apparently, I saw someone send this to me on Twitter. I forget the name at the time, at this point in time, but Barkley was lined up in a way too where that like his leg was a little bit back and like looking unusual.
He was leaning.
Yeah, they tipped it a little bit, I think, too.
I agree. He was tipping his pitches. As Brandon Lee Gowton joins us here on Philly with John Marks live in studio. You follow him on Twitter and you'll be very happy. It's Brandon Gowton. Was Lee not available, or is that Brandon Lee Gowton? Was that not available, or is too long for the
one
handle?
Character too many?
Oh,
yeah,
Jesus.
Right. Isn't that crazy?
And you can't go L.E. Gowton.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Tough.
That's a tough.
That beat.
You've been able to figure out a career otherwise, though. A lot of great stuff going on there over there at Bleeding Green Nation. I congratulate you on that. All right, so we're going to play. So get yourself ready. After I talk about some things here, we're going to play Would Ya? Jaylen Hurts edition. All right, I'm going to give, Tyler's going to get involved in this as well. I'm going to give you an NFL quarterback, and you have to tell me, would you? Would you take him over Jaylen Hurts? And this is right now and going forward.
And we're including the contract too.
So it's as simple as, would you take this guy right now over Jaylen Hurts? So like Aaron Rodgers, he may have one more year left.
Right. So to win a game today.
No, like would you
this season?
This right now? Would you take Aaron Rodgers over Jaylen Hurts, knowing that he probably has 1 year left on his contract or 1 year left in the league or whatever? So think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. All right, let's talk about BetParks for a second. Oh, yeah, it's the only place that I would go, the only app that I would ever recommend to everybody. Eagles 2.5-point favorites on the road against the Bucs, even with how injured they are. Who the hell's going to be playing wide receiver? Listen, the one and only sportsbook app I ever recommend, BetParks sportsbook app, and the online casino. They have a great offer for new customers for this pro football season. You can still get in right now. This is almost unfair that they're still allowing you to do this. 50-1 Super Bowl odds boost. It's unfair for you. It's unfair for them. BetParks.com has all the terms and conditions. So you decide who's going to win the Pro Football Championship, and you get a 50-1 odds boost. Maybe you like the Birds. Maybe you like somebody else. Kansas City. Don't forget, you can double down on 4th down while you watch and wager football. So when you're watching the game, why not play blackjack, roulette, or craps? It's with a live dealer. It's right there on the BetParks app. So download the BetParks Sportsbook and online casino app right now. 50-1 super odds boost on your pick for this year's Pro Football Champion. Limited time offer, and it's for new customers only. So if you're using one of those other apps, get with BetParks right now. You must be 21, and in PA, New Jersey, Michigan, or Maryland, you play for fun, you love to win, you bet. BetParks, gambling problem. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, Rite Aid. Got to get to Rite Aid. I was at Rite Aid again yesterday. God, always need something for the kids. And if you have a lot of prescriptions like I do, I'm type 1 diabetic, and I feel like I'm constantly picking up a prescription. It's a great time to transfer everything to Rite Aid right now. Refill your prescription, schedule a vaccine, get personalized care recommendations. You can do that with a My Pharmacy account at Rite Aid. All you need is a prescription at Rite Aid. Get started at riteaid.com/mypharmacy. Enroll in automated courtesy refills. It's free and easy. Most of your prescriptions will qualify. You can talk to your Rite Aid pharmacist about everything. They can help you sign up for the account. Or you can go to My Pharmacy account at riteaid.com. Get prescriptions at the same time with one-trip refills, so you bundle them all together instead of going 5 times a month. Go once. Pick them up at once. Sync them with your other family members too, and you can transfer or refill prescriptions. You can do it all from right there. So go to riteaid.com/transfer and check everything out. Rite Aid caring pharmacists ready to answer your questions and help you stay healthy. Get your prescriptions along with anything at Rite Aid that you may need: over-the-counter medicines, household products, cosmetics, and more. Energy drinks, in my case, Brandon Lee Gowton. I like to get them at Rite Aid. Restrictions apply. Go check out Rite Aid. All right, do we understand what we're doing here?
Yes.
You had a lot of questions. I usually get these questions when I try to play games like this. This is, right now, who do you want the Philadelphia Eagles quarterback to be? So I'll start with Aaron Rodgers. Would you take Aaron Rodgers or would you take Jaylen Hurts? This is would you? Aaron Rodgers. Lee Gowton.
I would go Jalen Hurts.
Yes, I would too. I've already done this, and I will tell you at the end how many I went. I would go Jalen Hurts because Aaron Rodgers, I mean, he hasn't been clutch in a long time. Jalen Hurts was just in the Super Bowl, and he's got 1 year after this, probably. Yeah. So, so you have, I mean, you're going to have Jalen Hurts if you want healthy for the next couple of years. So, all right. Tyler Zulli, same thing?
I would go Jalen Hurts as well.
All right. Well, that's an easy one right there. All right. So, I'm sorry, I lost my page right here. Well, we'll just start. We'll just start in the NFC East. Jaden Daniels, would you?
Yeah. I'm just gonna overreact to one game on Monday Night Football and say sure.
It's not overreacting, man. This dude's good.
It looks good. I thought he's really impressive last week. I know the Commanders didn't score a touchdown, but like he looked so poised for a rookie.
For being a rookie that played long collegiate career. So a guy like Drake May that has a handful of starts as a pro, this dude's played for a long time. Kind of a late bloomer. And man, he's accurate with do you see the throw that he made to McLaurin? He got smoked on a blitz, and he stayed in there, and he recognized it was a blitz, waited to the last second, uncorked it. McLaurin made a great catch, don't get me wrong. But this dude's being trusted on 4th down to throw the ball and make the right decision. I mean, he is awesome. Forget about that he's a dynamic playmaker with his legs, too, but he doesn't overuse it like you see some young quarterbacks.
That is the one thing I would worry about. It seems to take some like big hits.
He does.
He did slide last night, so I guess he's learning how to do that. But that is the one drawback.
Daniels, Tyler Zulli?
So when he was coming out, I understood that Caleb Williams was going to be and kind of had to be the number 1 pick. To me, Daniels was the best quarterback in this draft class. He's looked awesome. Really, really, really good. I can't give it to him after 3 games, but it's a lot closer after 3 games than it probably.
Right now, you take Jalen Hurts as your franchise quarterback over Daniels.
It's been 3 games. I'd like to see him do it over a larger sample size. We've talked about this, John, plenty of times. You know I'm a huge Jaden Daniels fan.
Yes.
Huge. 3-game sample size is not enough for me to crown somebody over a franchise quarterback as of yet. Talk to me at the end of the year.
You want to crown him and crown him.
Yeah, sure. Talk to me at the end of the year. It's probably closer if he continues to play this way. But right now, I'm still taking Hurts.
I'm not going to ask everybody in the NFL because there's clearly you're not going to say Daniel Jones. But Dak Prescott, would you?
I think I have to stay committed to my brand here, my bit, which I am a big Cowboys hater above all else, and say Jalen Hurts, in part because, I mean, Dak is one of the weakest playoff resumes of like any quarterback ever. Literally one of the worst winning percentages, and the 2 wins he did are like really weak wins. One was over that sub 500 Bucks team in Tom Brady's last game. So Dak, better in the regular season than Jalen Hurts, I would say, but in the playoffs, he's been bad.
Yeah, it was a typical Dak Prescott game against the Ravens. He threw for a bulk of his yardage in the 4th quarter when they were down multiple touchdowns.
Yes.
So you look at that box score without knowing the context. Like, wow, he threw for 379 yards and 2 touchdowns. A lot of garbage time yards in that right there. No to Dak. I'm guessing Tyler Zulli. I say no to Dak as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about Dak. He's a good quarterback. I think he gets over-criticized in this city because he's Dak and he plays for the Cowboys. He's a good quarterback. I don't think he's a great quarterback.
He wouldn't be here if he got drafted by the Eagles and had the same started when he did. He wouldn't be here anymore because it would be so loud. You have to win in the playoffs. You have to come up big in the playoffs. You can't come up small as many times as Dak Prescott. Oh man, no, you can't, man. I can't have it. All right, Goff, not even worth asking. Jared Goff.
I would say no. Jalen Hurts.
Jordan Love. Would you?
Yeah, I think I would. Yeah, I think he finished the season so hot last year, and I just think the talent there. It's obviously betting on some unproven things when it comes to the postseason. Although when it in Dallas was pretty good, and I also thought he kind of played. I thought the Packers outplayed the 49ers.
They did. No, they should have won that game. I agree.
So honestly, I had the Packers beating the Eagles in Week 1. Like I've been high on the Packers. I think they're like the betting favorite to be win the NFC, if I'm not mistaken, or at least they're up there. So yeah, I'll take Jordan Love.
For all the people that call me a Hurts hater out there, I would not take Jordan Love over Jalen Hurts at this point.
I would take Jordan Love over Jalen Hurts. And I know he's also a small sample size, and they had to pay him on a small sample size. But I think that the maturation, BLG, you talked about it, like heading into like the back end of last season, was pretty significant to me. I would take Jordan Love.
Caleb Williams, worth that conversation. I mean, first overall pick, huge prospect. The intangibles scream no to me with this guy being a successful quarterback in the NFL.
I'm going to go no.
Same thing. I mean,
I think Daniels is better than Williams. So if I'm saying no to Daniels right now, I'm saying no to Williams.
NFC West, Kyler Murray, that's over with. Thinking that he's. I mean, they've actually looked pretty good. That offense looked pretty good this year, but no. Josh Allen, would you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we don't have any silly people on the show right now that would say, yeah, Josh Allen's a stud. He's amazing. Tua, no one's going to say Tua right now. Even before the injury, I wouldn't have said Tua.
Right.
Lamar, would you?
1,000% yes.
Okay. Strong answer.
I have a tough time in the playoff record. It's like he is very much under delivered in big spots, and I wonder if some of that is play style. In the regular season, absolutely a better player than Jaylen Hurts. In the postseason, I've seen Jaylen Hurts get to the Super Bowl and play like the Super Bowl MVP
and outplay Pat Mahomes.
Yeah, and I've seen Lamar Jackson like Dak just consistently disappoint.
Well, that offense gets figured out in the playoffs. Spags did it to him last year, where they said, we're not going to allow you to throw anything underneath or intermediate. You're going to have to beat us over the top, and he wasn't able to do it. I'm a Lamar fan. I like Lamar. He's going to do it. And for each year that he plays in the league and he fails, it's kind of like, all right. Jaylen is, and we'll go through the rest of this because I want to wrap it up with this conversation. But Jaylen, sometimes when I watch him, I don't think he's very good, right? But then when the game's over, I'm like, he's getting it done, and he's a big part why they're winning. Joe Burrow.
Once upon a time, I just don't know where he is anymore, like health wise. I don't know if he's the same player that he
would
was.
You Joe Burrow?
No.
Wow.
So are you saying like the lore of Joe Burrow still holds further value than Joe Burrow productive wise?
I was terrified of Joe Burrow before the injury. I thought like might be. I didn't want the Eagles to play the Bengals in that Super Bowl because I was like, Burrow's terrifying, especially if I'm going to go opposite of what I've been saying about Dak and Lamar. Like Burrow in the playoffs, terrifying. But I just think, I don't know. I just don't know if he's even the same guy after that injury.
I totally understand the injury concerns. I still would take Joe Burrow over Jaylen Hurts.
For sure. I would too. And they're 0-3. That's a terrible organization. If you put him on the Eagles, that's what a lot of like, I try to remind myself, Jaylen Hurts is in a really good situation. He's got a ton of talent. It's a very well-run organization. Like this is a really good spot to be a quarterback in. All right, couple more here. I lost it. Where did it go? Oh my goodness! Oh, here we go. Patrick Mahomes, obviously, yes.
Yeah, of course.
No. All right, Justin Herbert. Would you?
I just don't even know what to make. Like, Herbert seems so theoretical. Like I love the idea of Justin Herbert. But the reality of him, I mean, he threw for like what, 150 yards or something.
He's 399 yards this year in 3 games.
And part of that is,
they run
it's hardball. They're going to run the ball. But I mean, talking about a guy who hasn't even he played in the one playoff game, or maybe two, the really bad loss to the Jags that he blew when the Chargers had that lead.
I have no reason to believe Justin Herbert's going to be an elite level quarterback, or a championship quarterback. I agree with you.
He has the tools in theory, but it hasn't materialized.
Herbert. Would you?
This one I have to think about for a while. I think
it's a close one. I had it listed as a close one.
I think I lean no, but like you could flip-flop me either way on this one. It's really, really close. It's a paper-thin margin.
All right, and then C.J. Stroud's the only other one from the
Stroud. I would do. Yeah, for sure.
He's a stud. All right, well there you go. So I had, but counting at home, I didn't count yours. But the exercise is the exercise. I had, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, C.J. Stroud, Pat Mahomes, Jaylen Daniels. And here's the last one, Brock Purdy. I didn't ask about the West. I didn't ask about Purdy. Brock Purdy, would you?
No. I think that so much of that is tied to Shanahan. And I think he kind of lacks. I think we saw in the Super Bowl where he played like relatively well, but you saw the difference between that and a quarterback who's actually really good, and in fairness, maybe the best quarterback ever, or one of them, in Mahomes. And I think at the end of the day, I think it's very context dependent, and I would take Hurts.
But I would say that like Purdy's probably more of a system quarterback, and Hurts I think you could put on a lot of teams, and he can make plays because he's a playmaker. People sleep on Brock Purdy, man. I think he's really good. I think Brock Purdy, you put him on, like you can't put him on a crappy team and he's going to elevate that team. Yeah. You put him on a good team. Like if he was on Kansas City, like he's going to be a successful quarterback. You can't put him on the Patriots and the Patriots are going to win 12 games this year. There's not enough talent on the team. Brock Purdy, last one, Tyler. Brock Purdy, would you?
No, I think that your reasoning is sound. I think that if you were to put them, because the way that I would do it is like put them both on the same neutral team. Who gives me a better upside to win? I believe it's Jaylen Hurts. It's funny though, John, the one that like doesn't even get brought up anymore. Former #1 overall pick is Trevor Lawrence. You saw him last night. How bad he was. How bad he's been. It's crazy to see the fall off for him because he was kind of anointed that dude, right? And the fall off's been pretty significant.
Yeah, he's not very good. Doug's going to end up losing his job down there because of it, but he's not very good. All right, Jeff Kavanaugh, who does the Dallas Cowboys podcast on our sister network down in Dallas there, Brandon Lee Gowton, he tweets the following. You can't convince me the Eagles don't have a really good team/roster. You also can't convince me Jaylen Hurts is any good. And he did this before the fourth quarter.
Okay.
He tweeted this before the fourth quarter. Is there any part of you when you're watching a game that wonders how good really is Jaylen Hurts? And he had the Super Bowl, and that's going to be the trump card right now. And he was good through 11 games last year. He also leads the NFL in turnovers since the beginning of 2023. And let's be honest, his play isn't getting better. He's not progressing as a passer. If anything, he's going backwards a little bit. And as he gets older and the running ability gets a little bit less and the injuries start to pile up, you're not going to be able to count on that as much to move the football. This past week, he didn't really utilize his legs to move drives. Against Atlanta, their 2 touchdown drives, he was a big part of the running game on scrambles. So, like, how do you evaluate Jaylen Hurts where he is right now?
It's a weird season for him so far because it's like you could be like, well, outside of the turnovers, he's been good. Problem is, those are a really big issue.
It's true, though.
And again, it's 26 in his last 21 games. It's the most in the NFL. And I think second is Josh Allen, but Josh Allen also has I think 7 more touchdowns and also carries the weight of that offense, where here Jaylen doesn't need to do that. He just needs to not really mess it up, and that would go a long way. As I think Sunday's game is a great example. I mean, he moved the ball 470 yards or whatever. If you didn't turn it over, you would win by more than 3 points.
Yep, they did dominate him. Josh Allen also, and he had a lot of bad interceptions last year in the red zone in particular, but he also has the mentality. His arm is so big, he tries to make throws that Jaylen Hurts would never try to make, which is like Brett Favre had the same thing. You get guys that have big arms, they're not necessarily as safe with the ball, so you take that just based on what he can do when he can make those throws. The problem is I see Jaylen making throws he shouldn't be making. 2022, he never made those throws that he's made last year and this year.
He had 9 giveaways in 18 games total that year. And to go from that, and then even in training camp this year, I know we kind of laugh at it like, oh, he didn't turn the ball over except the last day. But I think that is a real thing in terms of he has gone prolonged times where he doesn't turn the ball over. He takes care of it. So it's bizarre to me that he's off to this start that he just can't do it. And it needs to stop. It's a huge deal breaker. You can't have that many turnovers. It's just the Sirianni's been saying it himself. It said it's not sustainable. It's not.
It's not. Nope. We keep saying that. That's the problem. We were saying it all last year.
Yeah.
And they kept winning the games. And at some point, you have to wave the white flag and say, well, if they keep finding a way to win games, how can I bitch and complain about it? And then the friggin' season fell apart. And you don't want to see that happen again. And there is some to what you saw last year. There's a little bit of a feel towards that this year too. So, guess you got to take the good with the bad. This weekend gets the Bucks quickly. BLG, how do you feel about this on a Tuesday? I know you haven't probably taken a deep dive into it.
I think the Bucks, people are like, oh, they're kind of looking good. They beat the Lions in Detroit. I mean, the Lions were the better team in that game. They went 1 for 10 in the red zone there. They outplayed. It's kind of like this game where the Eagles, outplayed the Saints and the score looked a lot closer than it was. The Lions got a little bit unlucky, I think, there. So I don't think the Bucs are that good. I just don't know where the Eagles stand in terms of injuries. They have really who's even playing wide receiver?
I'm surprised they're 2.5-point favorites. And shout out to the diehards out there. Thank you very much, diehards. We appreciate you. We love you. Britton Covey is injured and isn't going to play. So what do you got? Paris Campbell, Johnny Wilson, and
John
Kingston?
Dotson. Yeah, I don't even know.
And Dotson, I mean, when they traded for Dotson, I might have been the lone person in Philadelphia. Nobody wants to hear people say this. It's aren't you worried there's a reason why
I was saying that
Washington
too, yeah.
was willing to trade him so easily?
When they don't have a ton of wide receivers, obviously McLaurin's great, but outside of that, yeah, not a lot.
No, the Luke McCaffrey's down there making plays.
Olamide Zaccheaus. as well.
I know. Yeah, he could be here. All right. Well, listen, great stuff, man. I know. So the last time I saw BLG in person was at a Phillies game. Happened to just run into him and his buddies. So Phil's clinched last night. How are you feeling as a Philly fan? Feeling good? Relieved? I'm relieved it's over, so I don't have to worry about that freaking magic number and them falling apart, losing 3 or 4 to the Mets. I'm just relieved. It was good to see him win last night and celebrate.
Yeah, just get the bye, which I'm sure they will. It seems like they will here. Magic number for that's like, 2? So I'm pretty sure they can get that. I never was really panicking when this team went in the hole there for a little bit. I understand it was frustrating for sure, but I just think this team has earned the benefit of the doubt in the postseason, and I trust them going into October. I think it's going to be another special run.
Wheeler leads off the rotation. Who's your 2 and who's your 3 in your playoff rotation?
I will go with Sanchez. I think Sanchez has been awesome, and I think the home road splits are
legit
a factor and should be considered. So yeah. And look, Nola was great last night. He's had some bounce back kind of games sort of through here. I just don't fully trust him. I trust Chris Sanchez more.
And I trust Nola on the road more, like you had said with the splits, than I would with Sanchez on the road. However, like I mean, the Phillies,
they won't do that, to be clear.
Well, but the Phillies lean on analytics quite a bit. So you wonder, Thompson being the old school manager, does he allow the leaning, hey, let's start Sanchez? Scott Fransky was on our show last week or the week before, and he had said one of the things you don't have to worry about with Nola is that he's going to get mad that you make him the 3rd starter instead of the 2nd starter. He's going to be, hey, I pitched well on the road. Yeah, Sanchez has been great. Like, hey, like he's not. It's not going to affect any type of chemistry or clubhouse stuff or whatever. Nola just go out there on the road and
I hope so.
No emotion, just throw the ball. Yeah, it's good. Sanchez is really good, man. You talk about a bonus getting him in there. All right, Brandon Lee Gowton. Dude, you're great. Thank you. That was awesome.
You're great.
Now, are you getting paid for the Wawa t-shirt, or is that just your
I can't reveal my secrets.
Yeah, we had that was an off-air conversation about Wawa, I think, yesterday.
Oh,
we love Wawa. We love Wawa. Wawa's the best.
Same.
All right, everybody, subscribe, like, follow us on YouTube, follow us on social media. The podcast will be out there if you want the audio version of this, or you're listening to the audio version of this. It's available every day after 9:00. Tyler puts it up there so you can listen to us in a variety of ways. Drop me a message. Drop me an email. It's at John, Jon Marks, Marks Media, at John Marks Media. The DMs are open, and we'll talk to you tomorrow at 8:00. See you.
We all silly like the mayor.